spiritual master is a significant one, and it's not something that can just be philosophically justified. Well, the gurus can be represented in many ways, like we read in the 11th canto about how there's, what was it, like 26 different gurus. And well, Krishna is the Chaitya guru in the heart. Yeah, I mean, all of that is true. But we're advised by the Shastra and by Krishna himself, sets the example that we should take shelter of a person, spiritual master, and have a relationship with that person. And so in the absence of that person, we should feel such distress. That's natural, that's normal. It's not just something like, well, sure, my spiritual master is gone, but after all, the Lord is in the heart, and and I'm meant to see the instructions everywhere. Yeah. But also this person probably put in a lot of effort to help you to become Krishna conscious. And so we should lament their passing. The great acharyas cry out that, like, in the absence of these devotees, I might as well smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. That's the feeling of love. We signed up for the whole love package, not just the warm fuzzies, but the whole package of love is also smashing your head against a rock and entering into fire. Are you prepared for that? Is everybody ready? I'll pass around rocks after class. But that's the symptom of real love, that you feel the pain of separation. Now, I'm fortunate that my spiritual master is still present. In fact, he's here in State College right now. He's coming to Gita Nagari today. But, I feel, believe it or not, I do feel some lamentable separation from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Just by reading his books, hearing his lectures, watching his video, I have a sense of being his follower. And yet simultaneously, there's this irony where simultaneously I've become close to Srila Prabhupada and yet feel myself having missed out on his association. So this is the magic of bhakti. This is it's almost oxymoronic. The closer you feel to Srila Prabhupada, the more you lament the separation as well. So again, this is the symptom of intense devotion, that when the spiritual master passes away, one should cry bitterly. Prabhupada actually said this explicitly as well. One should cry bitterly, thinking now I have no shelter without my spiritual master. So let's take some time to consider how fortunate we are to come in contact with a bona fide representative of the Lord, representative of the parampara. It's such a special thing. And it behooves us to really take advantage of the association of the Guru while we can. We have to do whatever we can to try to get that association, try to get some direct instruction, try to please the spiritual master in some way. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tasmad Guru, no, what is that verse? About approaching a spiritual master? You all know the verse. I can't even remember the verse.
Tadvidi
Pranipatina, thank you. Prashnena sevya, upatikshanti te jnanam ganinas tattvadarshina. That we approach the spiritual master, and there's actually a formula. There's a real formula for getting the most out of that relationship. The spiritual master is not a normal person. It's not just like, of course, they're all different. Some are much more casual, some are much more formal. But generally speaking, as is advised by Krishna in chapter 4, text number 34 of the Bhagavad Gita, there is a formula. There's a scientific approach to the spiritual master, and there's three things: pranipatina, pariprashnena, and sevaya. That's how the relationship with the spiritual master is actually expressed. We're meant to pranipatina. We're supposed to be well, very submissive, to say the least. I mean, you should really feel like, well, this person knows what's up, and I need to hear from them. If we're not pranipatina, you cannot learn. You can't learn anything if you think that you already know everything. So you have to approach the spiritual master thinking, now I must learn from this person who knows. Pranipatina, and then pariprashna. Prashna means questions, to inquire. And pari means like all around. Same from which we get our, well, that's the Latin prefix peri, like perimeter or peripheral. So pariprashna. We're meant to inquire all around. We're meant to ask also like all questions as much as possible, and not be afraid. And personally, I try to do that, even though sometimes I get funny looks from Gurudev. But you got to take advantage of the opportunity. That's what Krishna says to do. That we should inquire about every doubt, any doubt that is there. We're meant to inquire, pariprashna, but pranipatina, in a very submissive mood, not in a challenging mood, but in a submissive mood. Inquire. How can I understand? And then sevaya. The spiritual master is not just like some professor. You pay tuition in a class and you just get the knowledge and you leave. No, the tuition is the seva. We're meant to serve the spiritual master, serve the spiritual master's mission in serving Krishna. When we serve the spiritual master's mission, then they are inclined to give us transcendental knowledge, give us guidance to advance in devotional service. So those three things must be there. Pranipatina, pariprashna, and sevaya. When we do all three of those things, then the relationship with the spiritual master is very effective. It's effective. And the symptom of that is actually described in the next verse of the Bhagavad Gita, which of course I can't remember the Sanskrit for because I'm a little underslept today, but I'm just going to look it up quickly. The symptom of having actually learned from the spiritual master, having really taken advantage of that relationship, is described in text 35. You have to get this. So it's not just like a sentiment. This is really important. It's so scientific, spiritually scientific. It's not just like, well, I feel good because I have the picture on my wall, or I feel good because I got the name, and now I try to avoid Gurudev because he might tell me to do something. It's enough that I just got the name. No, there's a real symptom of success in that relationship. And that's described by Krishna in the next verse of Bhagavad Gita. Yajgyatva napunar moham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutan yasheshani drakshasat manyato mayi. Krishna says, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never again fall into such illusion, for by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine. Krishna actually says, Mayi. They are in me. They are mine. So that's the symptom of the effective relationship with the spiritual master, is that we see ourselves as part of the Supreme, as a devotee of Krishna, and all living beings as part of the Supreme, as part of Krishna. Then we know it's working. The process is working. I did the pranipatina, I did the pariprashanena, and I did the sevaya. And now I see, oh, I'm actually a servant of Lord Krishna. And everybody else, everyone is part of Lord Krishna. So that's an effective relationship with the spiritual master. And that's what we should aspire for. That's what we should strive for. That's what should be pleasing to the spiritual master, of course, when we grow in that realization and help to share that realization with others. Certainly the spiritual master will be pleased and bless us to continue in that service. And if we are able to continue in that service, then that is a symptom of also the blessing of the Lord and the spiritual master. Of course, our bodies have their limitations, but even if we cultivate the intense desire always, then that is a symptom of the blessing of the Lord and the spiritual master, as demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada. Of course, near the end of his corporeal existence in this world, his body was ending. he wasn't able to travel, even though he'd said he was going to come to Gita Nagari, among many things. But still, the strong desire was there. Prabhupada demonstrated, even if your body is incapable, the strong desire to serve should always be there, and we should always do whatever we can. So that is, again, the symptom of the effective relationship, the blessing of the spiritual master and of Krishna, that we see all living entities part and parcel of the Supreme, and that we help others to realize their nature as part of the Supreme. So the spiritual master is something very remarkable and very special. We shouldn't take for granted how fortunate we are to have come in contact with a representative of Krishna in the form of Srila Prabhupada and his books and Srila Prabhupada's followers. It's something very, very special. And you know, we should try to remember that it's not like something really remarkable that we've done to have the association of a spiritual master, to be accepted into the fold of Krishna's devotees by a spiritual master. It's really not like some remarkable thing that we've done on our part. We're just recipients of the mercy. We're all actually Kripa Siddhas. I know we practice the sadhana and we hope for sadhana siddha, to attain perfection by performing sadhana. But really, the only reason we have sadhana is because of the kripa, because we receive the mercy of the great devotees and the spiritual master. Otherwise, we don't have any sadhana. We can hardly even do our sadhana having received the mercy of the devotees. So sadhana siddha is probably, I mean, I can't speak for all of you, but I can tell you I'm probably not attaining any perfection by my sadhana anytime soon, maybe after many, many lifetimes. But Kripa Siddha, we get the special mercy of the devotees just by trying to do some service for them. By doing some service, you know, then we can really understand Krishna. Which is another great verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I'm going to recite for you in just a second. In chapter 2, where Sutta Goswami says, by serving the great devotees, the best service is done because one develops a message, one develops a taste for hearing the message of Vasudeva. You all know what I'm talking about, that verse? Can't find it. Vasudeva Kata Ruchi, San Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevana. Can't remember the first line. So that's another one of the symptoms of effective relationship with the spiritual master, is that there's Vasudeva Kata Ruchi. Where is that verse in chapter 2 of the first canto? Give me a second. Do 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 do. I can't find it. Anyway, I got most of it down. Vasudeva Kataruchi. Syan Mahat Sevaya, Mahat Seva. The symptom of really serving the spiritual master, an effective relationship with the spiritual master, is that then there's Vasudeva Kataruchi. Then you really you just love to hear Krishna Kata. There's a taste for it. It's not like I have to do it. But you want to hear Krishna's holy names chanted by his pure devotees. You want to hear Krishna's pastimes. You want to hear the discussion. Krishna Kata, thank you so much. Taraka Prabhu. Shushushra, that's why I always forget that first line, because it's a real tongue twister. Shushushra Shradadhanasya. Say that 10 times fast. Vasudeva Kata Ruchi, San Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevana. By serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. This is the symptom of effective relationship with the spiritual master. Vasudeva Kata Ruchi. We want that Ruchi. You know, we're always looking for Ruchi. We're always looking for Ruchi in all the wrong places. We understand Ruchi. It's just, when do we get that Vasudeva Kata Ruchi? If someone makes some pizza prasadam, then we understand Ruchi very clearly. It's not like someone has to tell you, you know, this pizza prasadam is very delicious because it has cheese all over it and it's hot and fresh out of the oven. No one has to justify it to you. If the pizza's there, The ruchi is there. It's just instant attraction. So that's what Vasudeva Katha ruchi should be like, an instant attraction, a lust for it, mouth-watering deliciousness of hearing and chanting of Krishna's pastimes. So that's the symptom that we've actually served the spiritual master, that we've actually taken advantage of that relationship and didn't just make it a trivial, superficial thing. And let's be honest, because Prabhupada has said it several times, that some persons, they approach the spiritual master and they're not really interested in attaining love of Godhead. They want to get some sort of benefit from him. And then, and then that's it. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj also spoke out about different types of disciples. Maybe someone can remind me. I recall him talking about, I don't know if he used the terms first class, second class, third class, but you all know what I'm talking about. How there's some disciples, they're bouncing up and down when the guru is there, but when the guru is not there, you don't see them anymore. No more devotional service. Perhaps Jagannath Pandit Prabhu or someone else could remind us what Bhakti Tirtha Swami said about different types of disciples. But of course, we want to be first class, really try to serve the spiritual master, the symptom of which is that we see all living beings as part of the Supreme, and that we have a taste for hearing and chanting the message of Vasudeva. That's the symptom of success. And we should recognize that symptom and not treat it just like some normal relationship. The symptom of success in normal relationships, I shouldn't say normal. In most other types of relationships, the symptom of success is that you get some sense gratification, right? A man and a woman come together and they feel success if their senses are gratified. And that's basically all there is to it, and even like family and friends will ask, they won't say so explicitly, are your senses being gratified? It's a bit crude, but basically, they'll say in other ways, are you happy? Does he make you happy? Does she make you happy? In other words, are your senses being gratified? That's the symptom of success that all the people can hope for, basically, in a materialistic relationship. But that's not the symptom of success in relationship with the spiritual master. The symptoms are described by Krishna, by Sutta Goswami. So we should keep that in mind, and not take for granted. Well, I have the guru, and now he's obliged to take me back home, back to Godhead. It's his problem now. I did my initiation, and I do my bare minimum sadhana. Basically follow the four regulative principles, more or less. Loosely. So going back home, back to Godhead, that's his problem now. It's all on you. No, we can do a lot better than that. We shouldn't approach the spiritual master as for sense gratification, like it's the job of the guru to fulfill our ego and, I don't know, give us financial advice or arrange for a perfect marriage. There's really, I don't recall any part of the Shastra that says that that's the guru's responsibility to find the perfect husband or wife for you. And yet we see so many gurus trying their best, following Srila Prabhupada's example, just so that people can be stable and fixed in devotional service. But that's not the point of the guru. There's not, it's not some matrimony service. The point is to realize our nature as part and parcel of Krishna, to see all living beings as part of Krishna. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigashu shreya uttamam. Are we qualified to approach the spiritual master? The qualification is jigashu shreya uttamam. We have to really be inquisitive about the absolute truth. What is really going to benefit me? What is my shreya uttamam? What is really beneficial? Not just prayas. We know the difference between prayas and shreyas. Prayas means something which is temporarily beneficial, scintillating perhaps, but trivial and superficial ultimately. That's prayas. But shreyas, like shreya kairava chandrikam, shreyas means ultimately beneficial. So tasmad gurum prapadyeta, the person who can therefore approach the spiritual master and surrender to the spiritual master, is jigashu shreya uttamam, inquisitive about what is really beneficial to them ultimately. Is that how we're approaching the spiritual master? Are we really taking advantage of the spiritual master and inquiring about what is really beneficial for us? Or are we just like, I hit my limit, Gurudev, just please don't push me any further. Well, I'll stick with the prayas. Thank you very much. Give me the prayas uttamam. I can't really handle the shreya uttamam right now. Speaking of my own experience, of course, but perhaps some of you can relate. Sometimes we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear that shreya uttamam. And so we don't inquire from the spiritual master while we can. And we don't inquire from Srila Prabhupada, and we can't. Everything's there in Srila Prabhupada's books, but sometimes we find ourselves in a position where we don't want to hear Srila Prabhupada's books. It's just too much Shreya Uttamam, right? Prabhupada is just so direct. He's just so unwavering in his expectation of pure devotional service from his followers. And it's like, sometimes, Prabhupada, come on. Can't handle that right now. So, and so then we reach for some lighter reading. You know what I'm talking about? Let me have a little lighter reading, maybe some memoirs, maybe some biographies, maybe, some sweeter Krishna Leelas. I actually heard firsthand from a really amazing devotee who lives in San Diego. I'm not going to say his name, but I respect him highly. And I know he was just really revealing some depth in his heart. But he had said to me that, when I was a brahmachari, I was just so intensely reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And now I'm a grihasta, I'm working a job and I got kids and bills to pay. And I just feel like I'm not meeting the standard, not meeting Srila Prabhupada's expectation. And so that's why I can't read Prabhupada's books. He was saying to me, he felt like I can't handle Prabhupada's purports, it's just so direct, so clear in his expectation of pure devotional service or bust. I mean, Prabhupada's not really pure devotional service or bust. He was actually, in his relationship with his disciples, of course, he was actually very accommodating. But in setting the standard in his books, of course, it's really quite unflinching in his books. Prabhupada, of course, aware that his books would be the spiritual law books for many, many years to come. And so, he didn't compromise in the message there. So this devotee in San Diego, highly respectable and long-serving devotee was telling me, now I just feel like I can't read Prabhupada's books because I'm not meeting that expectation of his. I don't know if he was struggling with any particular thing. We weren't that close. But he was saying, so, nowadays when I have the time to read, I read something a little bit easier, written by someone else, because nobody can really speak as strongly as Srila Prabhupada, so I'll read something written by some other devotees or something a bit easier on the ego, It's nice to read some memories of Srila Prabhupada or something like that. And I appreciate that he shared that with me, because I think all of us sometimes have that feeling where it's like, wow, Prabhupada, you're just so intense. I need something lighter. Can't take the strong medicine. But if we want to be qualified to really approach the spiritual master, to make that relationship effective, then tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigashu shreya uttamam. We need to inquire about what is ultimately beneficial, not prayas, but shreyas. So let's try to be first-class devotees, first-class disciples of the spiritual master. That means being pranipatena, submissively, pariprashna, inquiring, and sevya. We must do some devotional service. Serve the spiritual master. If that relationship is effective, then we'll see the symptoms as described in these Bhagavad Gita verses and in Vaisudhi Goswami, Vasudev Katha Ruchi. And then we'll have no doubt about the relationship with the spiritual master. I think that's important because, sometimes we can feel some doubt in the current state in ISKCON. Of course, we have, as the GBC themselves admitted in their most recent GBC resolutions, there is a deficit of gurus. So this isn't just Yashadev's opinion on social issues. Every devotee's got an opinion on ISKCON social issues. But this is not just my opinion. You look at the most recent GBC resolutions, and one of them was addressing what they called the deficit of gurus. So we have a situation where there's less than 100 initiating gurus in ISKCON, but hundreds of thousands of initiated devotees. Maybe not hundreds of thousands, probably 100,000, between 100 and 200,000, I would guess. Of course, like 50, 60,000 is all Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. So naturally, we might find ourselves thinking like, the spiritual master has so many disciples, I'm just one of thousands. Do I have a significant relationship with my guru? We can have some doubts. And those doubts can weaken our bhakti. So when the opportunity arises, we must take advantage of the association of the spiritual master and inquire pariprashna submissively and render service as much as we can. But also, if we are doing our best, then we will see the symptoms. Yajkatvano paramoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutani sheshani drakshasat manyatomai. Krishna says, you'll see all living entities as part of the Supreme, that they are mine. And Suddha Goswami says, Vasudev Kataruchi. We'll see these symptoms, and then we won't have doubt. Then we'll know, okay, my relationship with the spiritual master is effective. I have a taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna, telling others about Krishna. I'm realizing myself as servant of the Lord. So this is important because we can't always have so much personal time with the spiritual master. If we have had some personal time, we should cherish it and recognize that it's not common to have a lot of personal time. Many of our spiritual masters, those of us who are not disciples of Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual masters, may have had very little time with Srila Prabhupada. Like His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj, you've all heard the story, of course, about the one-word exchange he had with His Divine Grace. And here we are thinking, well, I should be able to just like sit down with Gurudev for hours and hours and just, download all my problems. And Gurudev, what do I do about my bills? So sometimes we might be taking that relationship for granted when we should be making it effective by pranipatena, pariprashna, and seva. So let's do it right. Let's do it right. And not just take for granted, well, I got my spiritual name, and he hasn't told me off in a while, so I guess it's all good. Now I can just kind of like drift off into my own little world where I continue to believe that I'm the controller and the enjoyer. No, so make that relationship effective by service, by inquiry, submissiveness, and then we'll see the symptoms, a taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. Until such a time comes where we have a surplus of gurus, which will be wonderful. Again, this is not my words, but the GBC themselves are addressing this issue. I don't know if I call it a problem, but it could be better. So they're trying to promote more gurus. So until such a time comes that we have a surplus of gurus and there's really just 10 disciples to every guru, that'd be great. Till such a time, we need to really take advantage of what little time we may have with the spiritual master and really do our best to serve. And if that relationship is really genuine and effective, then we'll see, just as is described in this verse in Bhagavatam, that in the absence of the spiritual master, one will cry bitterly and weep and lament, just like the wife of King Malayadwaja is crying in the absence of her husband. Hare Krishna. So I would like to finish there and ask if any of the devotees have some thoughts or points, or if anyone can remember. Oh, Tarika Prabhu, you've unmuted. Would you like to add something or correct me in any way, Prabhu?
Yes, all of the above.
Thank you. I am a willing recipient of your corrections.
That's good. like that. Ah, let me see, where shall I begin? Give me a moment while I gather my notes.
While you sharpen your rod, chastisement.
Krishna. First, I would like to thank you for a nice class. You have nicely addressed a very, very important subject matter and taking advantage of the blessing of the spiritual master as fully as possible, both in his physical presence and in his physical absence, of course, is critically important. And many of us unfortunately know from experience what happens, the disappearance of the spiritual master, and how that impacts your life individually and all of our lives collectively. It's a very, very lamentable situation. Or, ISKCON is facing a lamentable situation. There is all kinds of division over philosophical issues and managerial issues, all of which could easily have been reconciled in a moment if we had Srila Prabhupada physically present to direct us. But in his absence, his physical absence, we have his Vani, of course, but there is still no substitute for having the spiritual master physically present and the opportunity to actually approach him directly and ask a specific question and get a direct answer. Within the course of his lifetime, he may not have the time to address every single issue that could possibly come up. So everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books, yet find ways to confound ourselves and create problems for ourselves in the absence of having Srila Prabhupada's direct instruction. So, great class. It is regrettable, however, that you will derive no benefit from it, according to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta and Anya. Or on that later, but there is, when one takes initiation from the spiritual master, there are various samskaras that are accepted. And a very important thing, depending upon one's situation and the modes of nature, there are different samskaras that one accepts. Brahman accepts, 10 samskaras, and accept more samskaras because they require more purification. Find where that is stated now. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta discusses this in his commentary on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat in the Adi Kanda, in chapter 15. Bear with me for a moment here.
Sure.
Just want to reference something. Anyway, yeah, I don't see exactly where that is now. Should have. Right, anyway, one of these samskaras is to wear tilak. And a very important samskara. it is said that Bhagavatam instructs that one should always Vaishnav tilak in 12 parts of the body. He says that if one does not decorate his body with tilak, he will incur sin. And it is stated by Narada Muni that if one performs sacrifice or gives charity or undergoes austerity or studies the Vedas or offers oblations to the forefathers, and what else is the activity like worshiping the deities, any of these activities without putting on tilak, the performer achieves no benefit. And it is furthermore stated that actually one should not see the face of someone is oh, there it is. Yeah, a Brahmana is obliged to maintain a pure Brahmin thread. Initiated Vaishnava is obliged to maintain Gita, Brahmana thread, tilak, and mala. Anyway, there is a Shastric injunction. It's stated in a few places. Ditya Purana states that a king, one of his duties is that if a Brahmin is without Vaishnav tilak marks, he should place that individual on the back, backwards on a donkey and drive him out of his kingdom.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, these instructions are from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's commentary on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, the Adi Kanda, 15th chapter, beginning with text 8. It is the pastime of Lord Chaitanya chastising his students. It's explained that he would humiliate them for failing to appear wearing their tilak. Where is it now? Begins. Well, let's see. It is first written here during this period. Sometimes by chance, a student would forget to mark his forehead with tilak, and verse text 9. As Sanatan Dharma himself, the Lord establishes the principles of religion. In order to protect people's religious principles, he would not tolerate any transgression. Text 10. The very moment such a delinquent appeared, the Lord would put him to shame, to such shame that he would never again come without first completing his morning worship. Text 11, the Lord would say, "Oh, brother, why do I not see any tilak on your forehead? What is your explanation?" Text 12, the Vedas say that if a Brahmana's forehead is not decorated with tilak, it is as good as a crematorium. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has more to say about that, it is like a crematorium because where is it now? If a person does not decorate his body with tilak, he is not to be seen because his body is as impure as a crematorium. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's comment. So now, where are we? 13. Text 13, Lord Chaitanya says, I can understand that you have not performed your daily worship. Therefore, dear brother, your mourning has become fruitless. Because, if one has performed their morning duties, they will certainly have tilak, because that's part of the process. You rise early, you bathe, put on fresh cloth, you attend Mangala Artik, but tilak must be there. As in text 14, go back home and perform your morning duties again. Then you may return to study. Finally, text 15, in this way, all the Lord's students were conscientious about performing their religious duties. There's a vast collection of quotations that I put together from Srila Prabhupada on the matter of tilak. He was quite heavy about these things as well. Tilak, Kantimala, Shika are all essential and indispensable items of dress for a Vaishnava under all circumstances. Srila Prabhupada never allowed us to go without these. Sometimes people would ask for some special permission to not have to wear tilak or shika because of their employment situation or something. Srila Prabhupada would refuse. He insisted that it was indispensable, absolutely compulsory. He just would not bend on it at all. Even there was one military officer, so there are pretty strict rules in the military. Srila Prabhupada wouldn't bend even for him. He said that these things must be there. He said if somehow perhaps tilak might interfere with your ability to distribute books, you can wear very light tilak or water tilak so that it's not really visible, but it still must be there. You still apply the tilak. Tilak it's actually a kavacha. It's there for our protection, but there's much more to it. Others are benefited when they see a Vaishnava wearing tilak, and but the same is not true if they're not wearing tilak. Then it is painful, and actually it is. Where is that stated? Anyway, wonderful purport from Bhaktisiddhanta. Has lots to say on the subject matter. It's everything about how to properly apply tilak. But lots of instruction about the importance Brahma Purana Uttarakhanda. Person who performs any activity like worshiping deities without putting on tilak achieves no benefit. There is no doubt about it. Know for certain that a person who performs sanya without wearing tilak is simply demoniac and surely goes to hell. So sanya, of course, the three sanyas, it's the performance of Gayatri, chanting the Gayatri mantras at the three sanyas. If you chant Gayatri without having tilak, your chanting of Gayatri, first you derive no benefit from it, but in addition to that, you go to hell. So something to be aware of. It's pretty important because one of the important aspects to the endeavor to go back home is to not go to hell. So I think I covered it all. There's lots more, and I don't know. I could, share my collection of quotations on the subject, but we don't have the time here, and it's lengthy, it's pages of references. But you said you would accept submissively, so there you have it. As a senior, I have an obligation to uphold Srila Prabhupada's standards. So thought I would say something about Tilak for the benefit of those who perhaps don't know. And that's all I got. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tarika Prabhu. I wish I had something to comment on that. All I have is excuses, so no sense sharing those. But I will try to wear a tilak more. Maybe for Bhagavatam class in the morning, chanting. You can probably wear tilak then. Shouldn't be a problem. Oh, Hare Krishna. All right, well, I guess that's our time for the day. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for participating. Hare Krishna, Krantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gita Gaur Premanandi, Hari Haribo.
Thank you, Yashadev Prabhu.
Oh, thanks for being here, Jagannath Pandey Prabhu.
I just wanted to add real quick, you asked about the types of disciples.
Yeah, can you remind us what Maharaj had said?
Okay, well, we clearly know what the first class is, right? That we know what is pleasing to the Guru and we act on it without hesitation. We know it's pleasing to him, so we do it. Second class, if I remember correctly, is he will follow the instructions, but he won't go any further than that. He's given an instruction, he fulfills it, he puts his heart into it, and he does it. Third class, they will follow instructions, but with a grudge. Like, do I really have to do this? All right, I'll do it. Not out of love. And then he even went with a fourth class devotee. He knows what the instructions are. He knows how to follow. He knows the philosophy. He understands what is to do. He's even committed, but will not follow the orders.
Thank you, Prabhu. Let's try to put ourselves in that first class, huh? Go above and beyond. It's not.
Yeah, I think that describes you and your efforts to preach.
Well, you will see Devamrita Swami later. Maybe you can ask him if that's what he thinks too. I don't know about that, but thank you for the encouragement. As always, you are.
When will we see him? Do you know when we will get a chance to see him?
He's coming today.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. I guess he's filling in for His Holiness Ramapad Swami, who I'm not sure is coming to the retreat. He got COVID. And
yes,
so
I heard that.
So I guess Urmila Mataji and Gurudev are going to kind of like fill in for this retreat that they kind of planned with Ramapad Swami. So anyway, he'll be there today. I'm not sure if there's going to be evening readings or if he's going to be busy, whatever, but I'm pretty sure he'll be here until Janmashtami. So 1 week. All right.
We'll
Sorry?
So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Waiting.
Yeah. I guess we just have to see what's going to happen. So as always, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being present. Thank you all devotees. Hare Krishna. Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Gita Gaur Premanandi. Hari Haribo.